Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the One Piece box tournament that I hosted last night as of this video coming out. So a lot of fun, and if you guys are interested in doing some more community tournaments, I have my Discord linked in the description. I usually do a One Piece tournament every 2 weeks or so. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope to see you guys at the next one as well. But going into this top 16 breakdown, this was a 63 player tournament out of a 64 player cap, 6 rounds of Swiss, and it was also live streamed the entire time on my Twitch too, so you guys can check that out. It's going to be linked in the description as well as on this webpage. And also big shout outs to Garrett from Worst Generation for doing the co-commentary with me. Had a lot of fun, and make sure to check out their YouTube as well, which is linked in the description as well. But again, going into this, we do have this top 16 with 5 Katakuris, 2 Laws, 2 Queens, 2 Dofis, 1 Zoro, 1 Ace, 1 Eustass Captain Kid, 1 Nami, and a King as well. So we've been seeing King pop up a lot, at least more than 0 times, so a lot for King the last couple of weeks, which is really fun to see that. And then also we do have the leader breakdown as well. So and something I do kind of want to mention, and this kind of helps me for kind of my data and stuff, is that even though this is like a larger tournament, 63 people with it, this is definitely more of like a locals kind of vibe, just like a larger locals. And because of that, I think it also just shows like more people are trying to play the deck that they think are good, are not 100% at like a super competitive regional level. And so because of that, the data is a little bit different, which I find really interesting. So leader breakdown, we saw 11 Katakuris, 10 Laws, 7 Crocodiles, 5 Namis, 4 Zoros, 4 Dofis, 4 Rebeccas, 4 Newgates, 3 Queens, and then 11 additional leaders from there. So mostly the thing that I kind of notice is that like there's only 4 copies of Newgate, and I think that's more of like less of people like thinking the deck is bad, but more of people trying other stuff. And additionally, I think on like a regionals level, people will say, okay, it's time for regionals, it's time to get good. Newgate's going to be the leader to get me there, and I think that happens more often than not. So I don't know if that's true. That's just my own personal opinion based off the tournaments that I run and the data that I see, but I do think that is distinct enough to kind of mention as well. So, which also I think is partially why Newgate didn't top in this event, and maybe why people have like opinions saying, oh, well, Newgate's not a problem at my own locals, so why are people complaining about it, and vice versa about some other stuff perhaps. But anyways, that aside, we're going to go over the top placing leader for each one of these leaders. Starting off with our first place list, we have Cory with their Charlotte Katakuri. And this is a bit of an interesting list in the fact that I think it runs a couple more of our triggers. So mostly the Charlotte Cracker, which I feel is mostly con out of favor for room in the build. I think Sparrow is usually chosen just because we do have to go first. It's a good, turn 3 play, but also the fact that Sanji, I think, is better, and the double attack from Cracker doesn't come up as much as we want to. So it's, Sanji being able to be a blocker and save you the game is helpful there. And then also just kind of, 3 Randolph, 3 Sparrows, and then also 2 copies for Charlotte Katakuri. And I do want to mention that I know that this card is moderately expensive for a One Piece card right now. And, I do say like you run as many as you own. I think 2 or 3 is kind of like where you want to be, but I do think like Yamato as a card to replace Katakuri is fine for what it is. It does have like you are missing the synergies, and just the fact that this is a unique card in a lot of ways, especially since it is a big mom pirate, does make a difference. But I think you still can play Charlotte Katakuri with the 9-drop Yamatos, and the big boss monster obviously is the Charlotte Lin. That is the more important card for the deck in general. But other than that, it's kind of the stuff we see in general. I do like the Amande a lot. I think this helps out a lot in like Trafalgar Law matchups a lot of the time. Struzen as well, but Amande just a little bit more. Just the fact that it's an activate main that you can keep activating, and your opponent's either going to have to find a way to get rid of the Amande, or they're just going to, you lose a card from your hand, but you get rid of a card on their board, which is pretty impactful. So that is the list there. Congratulations to Cory for their first place finish. And then next up we have Adrian with their second place Trafalgar Law. And spoilers, there was the finals were these 2 guys on both Katakuri and Law, and spoilers, Katakuri did win, but it was a really fun match. I think it was really interesting, the dynamic between the 2. I think more times than not, I think Law does have the advantage for the matchup, and there was a case of just a lot of good cards. I think for Cory, they had a really good life at the end of that last game, but there is like a more creative build for this one for Adrian. Specifically, we're not running any events, so no guard points are radical beams, which usually I see like a 1-1 of each for there. But also we play the Eau Rouge, which is kind of like the forgotten supernova for the deck, but it's a really nice kind of tech choice. And a lot of times it's kind of like the same thing as kind of how Zoro works. The starter deck Zoro, and the fact that if you have Dawn underneath it, it gets power on both sides, which is really nice. So obviously this becomes a 6k. You do need the additional effect of having 3 or more characters, including itself, so 2 other characters on the board, but then it becomes a 5k for 2. So and then, for 1 Dawn, it becomes a 6k on your own turn. So that kind of stuff is really flexible. It's a supernova, so it's searchable off body. And I think there are a lot of kind of nice plays that you can do with it. So it's a cute little tech choice, but I think it worked out and had some value for it as well. So other than that, just the generic stuff we see for Law. You guys know what that looks like by now. And congratulations to Adrian for their finish there. The next up we have Zoro. So we have El-Habr with the Zoro for us. And normally Zoro, like, we don't have a lot of people on it in general because we only had, I think, 4 for this tournament, right? Yeah, only had 4, but it still gets to the top. No, it gets X1 at least 1 deck every time. And I think that just kind of shows the flexibility and the strength of Zoro as well. It did lose to, I can't remember. I think they lost to Katakuri in the second to last round. So that was their only loss. But just the fact that this deck is very aggressive, the way that you're able to build advantage and just be, again, aggressive is very strong for what this list gets to do for you. So I won't say anything too different. The 9-drop Newgate is not as common, I think, for the deck as it used to be in OP03. And I think when we get the starter deck, probably the Luffy is going to get added to the deck too. But it is strong in the fact that it can buy you another turn. And it just if your opponent's playing a lot of small blockers, being able to get around those blockers with this guy is very strong for you. We're playing the Jambe, we're playing the Luffy, and 2 copies of the Fiery Doll as well. So a lot of good, I think, event cards and a lot of aggression with it. We're playing a couple rush cards, which again are not necessarily standard anymore, which is really interesting, and just as a meta in general. And I think Zoro is still good. That's not a big change. And congratulations to El-Habr for their finish there. Next up, we have our Queen player. And so we do have David on Queen. And so we only had, real quick into the X1, we only had 3 unique leaders between the 6-0 and the X1. We had the Charlotte Katakuris, the Laws, as well as the single Zoro. So going into the 4-2, we do have, again, David with their Queen. And obviously, since we had Holden win the regional last weekend, I've been visibly seeing more and more people on Queen, which has been exciting to see. And just the fact that more people are trying it out and testing the deck, which I think is very strong for it. Nothing, I'd say, too wild from it. The changes from specifically Holden's list and the list that I've been testing a little bit more is that we've added the ulti. We're adding 2 copies of this, which is a new add. Kaya instead of the Sasaki, which after playing a little bit, I do like Kaya just because it's a 1-drop I can get out of my hand, which helps out a lot because sometimes I need to be able to, do something like play Katakuri and play Kaya and get the removal of something. I think that's really strong. Like it just helps you get rid of cards in hand, which means that you get to get another heal, which is really all we really need. So I think that's strong for you. Only 2 copies of Mihawk is a little bit low, but I do know that this guy has gone a little bit expensive over the last couple of weeks too. So I'm not sure if it's an availability issue or not. We obviously have 3 Katakuris, right? But I do think that this is kind of one of the stronger cards for the deck, so I think that's important. We're also only running 2 copies of Sanji as well, which seems like a little bit low, but I get it. I do think you want to maximize on the amount of blockers we can get out of life. So we have the Boas, the Brûlés, the Beige, and then we also have additional 8 blockers in the Pound, and the Dofi from there. So a total of 18 blockers in the deck with 10 of them being able to play off life. I think that's very strong. And then lastly, the 3000 Worlds in Red Rock, which is again pretty common for this build as well. So a little bit of different ratios, a couple different card choices from Holden's list, and which I think are nice. And congratulations to David for their finish there. Next up, we have our Ace leader. So this is Joelsen with Ace, and we did have a couple players on Ace this weekend as well. And I think that in a meta where there's a lot of Trafalgar Law, and we did get a match with this deck against Trafalgar Law too. The amount of removal that you get, the amount of pressure you're able to give them is very strong and almost unrivaled compared to any other deck as well. I think Black does get a good amount of removal, but this one's like free removal because everything's already kind of in the ranges for our Fire Fist and Flame Emperor and just everything else that we want to get the removal on as well. But we're playing a little bit of like the 1-drop army as well, which I think is strong for the deck. I'm a little bit surprised we're not seeing any copies of Curly to Dawn because I think that can help the deck too. But the 4 Machinos with the Magra, the Izo, the Buggy, and just the amount of buffing we can go there. No copies of Otama either, which I don't think you need as much for getting stuff into range, but it can be helpful for you there. And then 1 Marco and 4 of the 5-drop, and then also no 9-drop Newgate, which again I kind of understand how that, why that is. Sometimes you just don't have time to set him up, and he's just kind of clunky in hand. So when you can't see him reliably, I understand the idea of like just don't play him at all. Just like we can win without him, and so like let's not like bank on getting him every time or that kind of idea. So I know a lot of people said that Ace was probably hit by the restriction list the hardest. He cared about Marco 4-drop more, and he really needed the 9-drop to stay viable, but I think he doesn't need it as much as people have kind of been saying for it, and it's been nice to see it pop up every once in a while as well. So this is Joelsen's list. Congratulations to their finish there. And the next up, we do have Armando with the film Dofi. And this, we've been seeing a lot of this. I don't think there's a lot of difference for most builds. I'd say like a good 30 to 40 cards are the same. Mostly just the film package, which means the Nami, which means the Uta, which means the Luffy, the guild, 2 or 3 copies of this, and we have Sugar and Donquixote, Doflamingo for their strength there. The different ads that we have the Diamante, which being able to use this to set your character to active at the end of the turn, I think is strong. We're not playing any queens either for the cycle, which could be important. There's also the tech choice of Shiki, which is a film card from the starter deck that the rest of the purple film stuff comes from, and it has an effective, if you have 8 or more Dawn cards on your field, this character cannot be KO'd in battle. So that is a pretty strong effect, and we usually stay at 8 pretty consistently, which means that the only way to get rid of this is like with a Red Rock, with Katakuri, or something of those kind of ideas. It can also get 9-drop Mihawked as well, but not being able to KO in battle is good. It also can just get like Fire Fisted if you like Gordon it down and then whatever, but it just means that it's a little bit trickier to get rid of, and you can just kind of have like a 7k swing every turn outright, which is nice. So other than that, the events that we're used to, I think Punk Gibson and Spiderweb are default the best ones. I do like Thunder Bagua if I am running the 5-drop Queen to consistently get more card draw, but without seeing it, then it's not as big of a deal. And then also 2 copies of Hell's Judgment, which it does stink for this to get the Dawn -1 at times, but being able to get 2 attacks for 2 Dawn is usually too much to give up. I also want to say they're only running 3 copies of Donquixote Doflamingo, which I think most people try to jam 4 of these just because it's not searchable and they want to be able to get the card draw to get there, but it worked, so that is there. So congratulations to Armando for their finish there. And then next up we have the Eustass Captain Kidd. So this is Carmen Burke's build for it, and we've been seeing a little bit of Eustass Kidd. I think that it's kind of understood that the 10-drop Dofi is honestly just a really good boss monster for the deck in general. So if you're able to use it in tandem of already having like an 8-drop Kid setup or something like that, even though like this does need a Dawn underneath it, so I guess that's a bad example, but being able to just have like some blockers up or just have some like a Basil Hawkins or something, being able to pressure down your opponent with some of your larger characters and then punish them if they, I don't know, a lot of decks get hit by this. I think Queen gets hit by this card very hard because they can't attack with their big drops, and more importantly they can't heal as well, so being able to like stop 2 turns of healing essentially is very strong. The turn you're going into and then you get your next turn where they didn't heal, so that's very good for you. The ability to get like a lot of cards rested with the Okiko, even though we're only running 1, but Izo as well for the removal, and also the Yamato. The Yamato is very strong too. So I don't know, I think just standard green does have a lot of good tech now, and that it does match up into, I think, Law and potentially Zoro a lot of the times, and I think that's something that's kind of invaluable for those matchups that are very popular as well. I also think if you're able to hide behind Newgate or the Captain Kidd long enough, that the Newgate matchup becomes pretty winnable. You just have to kind of get there, which is sometimes a pain. So, but that's the list there. Congratulations to Carmen for their finish. And then next up we have Nami. So this is Kevin's list here. I don't have a lot to say about this because Nami lists are very standard. they are like 48 cards the same, and that's not a criticism. It's just kind of how it is with how the deck works and stuff. So obviously you just play a bunch of blue events. Sometimes the game's just dictated by how many free, Sanji Pilafs you get off, or, Impel Down All-Stars, which you'll have, 8 of these just straight up draw 2s, which is really nice. You run the Impel Down package, so you have Bug, you have Daz Bones, and then you're only running Zeph just because this is able to get the mill by itself. It gets to disrupt your opponent, because there are honestly a lot of obnoxious 3-drops that exist right now, such as Kairos, such as Sentomaro, such as Perospero. Being able to get interaction with all these are very good, and then also if you're able to push for some damage, it's very good too. So obviously I think if we get to a slower meta, this deck gets better, but I don't think we're there quite yet, so it's just a bit of an off meta choice. But congratulations to Kevin for their finish there. And then last up, we have, talking about off-meta choices, we've got the King leader. And honestly, I've been messing with some purple, and literally today as this recording, I did like a whole stream where I was testing out purple and Kaido, not as much King, but Kaido. And I think this deck is a lot better than people are kind of, like, purple in general is a lot better than, giving credit when people are giving it. You know what I mean? I'm saying it's in a good spot. It's in a pretty good spot. I know more people will go to purple when we get the new starter deck at the beginning of next month as well. It's about a month away from this video dropping, but there are a lot of good purple cards that exist that get synergy, and they take advantage of people playing these 4-cost cards that you can get rid of very easily and just kind of go from there. So I do like the 10-drop Kaido. Being able to get a board clear in this game is strong. Some decks don't get affected by this as much, like Rebecca doesn't get hit by this as much if they have like their Sabo in play, if they just played Sabo last turn, or if you are playing against like red and they have a bunch of Marcos that can just save. It feels a little bit worse for those matchups, but otherwise it can be very strong. 9-drop is honestly the best one for you. Even though there are like an obnoxious amount of like 7s and higher that you really wish you could interact with, the immediate pressure you get from this as being a 10k with Rush is there as well. And honestly, I think like King and Kaido just comes down to a personal choice, which leader you like more at this point. I personally do believe that there are some matchups and scenarios where the -7 does make sense, and I think if you don't see that as much, or if you want to go for more board clear, King's effect being able to get like a -1k to all of your opponent's cards is strong, but or opponent's characters, but I don't think it comes up as often as like the potential to do a -7 to go for game. So it's kind of just your own personal choice from that way, but otherwise just the generically good purple cards that we've been seeing for a while now, just kind of like the generic good like Animal Kingdom package too. So not much more to say of that. Congratulations to Steven for their 16th place finish there, and that's going to be the video for this one. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're in the tournament, congrats for your topping, and I appreciate you guys showing up. We should have another tournament in the next couple weeks, so make sure to check out the Discord for it. Check out the VOD, which will be re-uploaded to here on YouTube as well, and that's going to be it for me. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.